Hi, this is Joe with another review. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be discussing a real classic horror movie from 1939, The Son of Frankenstein. And so it's that Basil Rathbone, who later on became famous for playing Sherlock Holmes. And also has, of course, Boris Karloff his last time playing the Frankenstein monster. But also you have Bela Lugosi as Igor. The hunchback. Well, not really a hunchback. He has a broken neck, and he always has his head to the side, so he has a broken neck. Of course, this movie is the third of the Halloween of the Frankenstein movie series by Universal. Of course, this one takes place years and years later after, of course, the first two Frankenstein movies, was of course were classics. Of course, 1931, the original Frankenstein film, and 1935's The Bride of Frankenstein. So technically, even though it only came out 4 years after the Bride of Frankenstein, it takes place like years and years later, like maybe like 30 or 40 years later. That's like Basil Rathbone plays Henry Frankenstein's son, who inherited his father's old estate in I guess Germany. There is going here Baron and all that type of thing. And of course, this one the mother is not even mentioned this thing, but the father said that he died, and the son, his name was Baron Frankenstein. He inherited his father's castle and his laboratory and all of his notes about how he was creating a monster and that type of thing. But the town doesn't want him anymore. Doesn't want him there. Because the name Frankenstein is, of course, is a hated name and all that type of thing. But the funny thing is, what I should mention before I go any further, one of the town leaders was played the Burgermeister in the first Frankenstein film. So if you see him, you know him because he's been in a few Universal Monster films. But they all said, look, we don't want you here because of your father's legacy, and his monster was killing people, he drowned the girl, and all that type of thing. We don't want you here. And the son says, look, I'm just here to reclaim my family name and make it good, make more positive here. And he does ask you to give me a chance to clear my family's name and stuff. I want to make the name Frankenstein to be positive. And of course, another thing is too that they renamed the town Frankenstein. And as you remember, put in the train station, you see the name Frankenstein. And then even called the town Goldstadt, which was the closest town to where Frankenstein had his original laboratory. So you have that, that change for this town in this movie. Well, when he's there, when the son of Frankenstein is there, he realizes there was a guy who was there taking care, the caretaker of the estate. There was Igor, with a spelled with a Y, Ygor, played by Bela Lugosi, and he thought he did a great job in this movie. I mean, this is one of the best performances he had. I mean, other than his performance in Dracula, this was his best performance in any other horror film, in my opinion. He did a really great job in this thing, and you really have to pay homage to him. I mean, he was great. And the funny thing is, in the opening credits, Bela Lugosi got third billing. Well, just because Karloff played the monster and Lugosi didn't. So this was really one of the first movie when you see Bela Lugosi looking into the eyes of the Frankenstein monster, which is ironic because Bela Lugosi originally turned down the role as the Frankenstein monster. Like I said, another thing that was a change from Bride of Frankenstein to this one is the fact that not only is the mother not mentioned, you don't see the mother at all. Mention the mother. That's where you mention the father Henry Frankenstein had already died. The only other person who was not mentioned, and you don't see this character ever again in any of the Frankenstein movies, and that's the bride of Frankenstein. I think you may have seen the bride, maybe you've seen it in the Hammer movies, but in the Hammer Frankenstein films, but you don't see her in those movies either. So you don't see the bride anymore. The bride is not mentioned. Nobody even talks about the bride, and it's like, what happened to the bride? You only saw the bride for about like 5 seconds, about maybe a couple of minutes, not even 5 minutes in the Bride of Frankenstein, if that, and you don't see her anymore in the rest of the movie series, either in the Universal series or the Hammer Frankenstein films, which is kind of an insult. It's like, where's the bride? You know, how come the bride's not there? And not only that, but of course, those of you who saw the Bride of Frankenstein, the monster spoke. Koloff spoke, and they allowed the monster to speak in that film. The producer of Universal, and now, not anymore. He lost the ability to speak. There's no bride, and his clothing is still. And all of a sudden, he wears like this huge like sweater, or like this bearskin over his clothes, and that's, you know, what you see. But I think in the other movies, you don't see that bearskin anymore. I think you do it in with the Wolfman meets Frankenstein. You see that costume again, but the iconic costume you saw in the first two films, you know, it's covered by this bearskin sweater. It's the best I can describe it. And not only that, but Igor, the Bela Lugosi character, has been taking care of him, and has been taking care of the monster, I should say, and he wants Wolf Frankenstein to revive him so he won't be sick anymore. And he says, so Wolf was reluctantly does it, and every time never fails. And sorry about that. And so he decides to, you know, continue his father's work and try to make him smaller to control the monster's rages. And Igor says, no, I just want to walk around and stuff. I'll take care of him. You just make sure that he's able to walk around and all day long, all night long, and stuff like that. Because Igor wanted the monster to kill every single person who was on the jury. He wants to use the monster to kill every single person who sentenced him to death. Because, and Igor explains it, that he was sentenced to death because they thought that he was also killed some people, but it was actually the monster who did it, and he got the blame for it, and he wanted his revenge on the jury, and he was using the monster to go kill these people, and which is what was happening. And so he just wanted Frankenstein to revive the monster to a point where Igor will still have control over him. Because Igor feels that if Frankenstein does his experiments, that he will try to fix the ways of the monster so he won't be so evil and kill people, that Igor won't be able to use the monster that way. So that's what was going on. So it's like a science fiction of wills here. Strength of will, who has the strongest will here. And of course, in the film, when Wolf Frankenstein figures out what's going on, he wants to have his family leave the town and to get away from the monsters. When he realizes what Igor was planning, he actually kills Igor. And of course, there's also a police chief who's following him around, and the inspector who has one arm. And he lost his arm to the monster because he yanked his arm literally off of the socket. Literally. So what happened was, and the Frankenstein monster yanks his arm off again, the same arm, and he was flinging the fake, the fake, the prosthetic arm all over the place. This makes it for a little bit of humor. But when Frankenstein finds out, he does kill Igor, and then of course the monster has Frankenstein's son, his grandson. Well, not his grandson, but the grandson to Henry Frankenstein, I should say. And technically, that kid could have been young Frankenstein in the Mel Brooks parody of Frankenstein movies, young Frankenstein. And the monster grabs Wolf Frankenstein's son, and Frankenstein does rescue the son, and he shoves or he swings by. He's like he doesn't move like Tarzan, the ape man. Swings by on the rope, kicks the monster into the sulfur pit, and the pit like explodes. It looks like he killed the monster in the pit. The son is Wolf Frankenstein's son is saved, and after that, that's when the family decides to leave, and now the family's glad, and now the whole town is glad that he's leaving. But this movie, I should also mention, this movie is the longest of all the Frankenstein movies. This movie is about an hour and where's the phone again? And so that this movie goes to about an hour and 40 minutes, which is like one of the longest of the Universal monster movies, back in the 30s and 40s. Of course, at this time, the reason why Son of Frankenstein was even made was by that time Universal had new ownership and new management, because I guess Carl Limley and Carl Limley Jr. were not in control of Universal anymore, and they had new management in there, and they didn't want to use many monster movies anymore because they were getting late, and it looks like it almost ran its course. Even by 1939, it ran its course. By 1938, the year before, there was one particular movie theater who had showing a bunch of horror movies, so like Dracula, Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein, on a triple bill, and it was packed all the time. Every show was sold out, so they said, "Oh, let's make another horror movie." Since the horror movies, and literally, the Son of Frankenstein, even though it was 1939, started the second built horror cycle, which would continue in the 1940s. And this movie was pretty successful, even though, like I just said, it was the longest movie in time, the length of time. And it is kind of a slow movie, and then, as is in a lot of Universal monster films, everything is resolved within like the last 5-10 minutes of the film. But as the film itself, it was the first time I saw the whole movie complete, and it is a pretty good movie. I do recommend, especially those who are horror movie fans and like to watch the Frankenstein films, especially the Universal ones. I did enjoy the movie, even though it was kind of long, kind of padded out in a way. But it got like, even though Basil Rathbone was very, very good, Bela Lugosi stole this movie. This was really his show. And especially the way he tells the story about how he was attacked and blamed for some of the murders, and how his neck was like that. So technically, I am dead. It was a damn good, film in the Universal series. So that's my review of Son of Frankenstein. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video to your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews on my YouTube channel. RowdyC.com, or WDY, and that's C.com, that's the homepage of Rowdy Reviewer, Christine Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.